Don't say nothing. They don't need to know. Speed and snow. Yeah, I was reading this. Safe and sound. Door. Give me a minute. There we go. What freaking what chapter is this? Book 3, chapter 1. Oh my god. I'm gonna reread it from the beginning. Book 1. I'm gonna just start. I don't know how I ended up in Forkside. I'd driven there in my beat up car as well as any time. This is too stuffy to concentrate on anything but the road ahead. The sound of tires sloshing through the remnants of recent rains. I like the rain, kind of, I guess. I kind of like the rain. The rain's okay. I remember going outside during the freaking when rain was pouring. I ran out into the rain and got soaking wet. Also, the story does not belong to me. Flowers for Sophia? No, for Ophelia, I guess. No. The windows were broken, not able to roll down any further than an inch, but the hair that tickled my cheek was dry, suffocated by the cold. Oh my god. I think it was the smell. So the smell is nice. The smell of a forest. I haven't been one in the rain before, so I would like to, but it would probably hurt because there's this time I went up to the mountains to go to my grandpa's grave, and I freaking got bit by a spider. It was on my side and my I think it was my arm, but I can't remember. But yeah, it really freaking hurt when that happened. They had to put like mud on it. They had to spread mud on the bite to cool it down. Cause how bad it hurt. No freaking joke. I think it was the smell so earthy and fresh that had drawn me in as I passed the small town, so much like my own scent that I would be able to drift in as if an element of the forest myself, just another tree within the mossy clusters. Hold on. Okay, I'm good, I think. Give me a minute, I gotta go back. I think so much like my own scent that I would be able to drift in as if an element of the forest myself, just another tree within the mossy clusters that ran for miles. It reminded me of my dream too, of the perfection of a different life, the image of a life ended while another begun to tranquil. And silent that I felt myself drift, with the mere idea perhaps that was unnerving, but it brought a certain sense of comfort as I zipped past the rugged signpost that named the town. Oh my god. It was always the same town. New clueless people, I could list them all. As easy as it was to sing an old song, it was easier that way. Oh my god. That's true, though. I spent the summer in Canada choosing to drive for as long as I could. One day in late November, before the road would become even more undrivable than they already were, even though I had natural affinity towards the cold. I hated the months when it would make my car cramp up. My car cramp up? What? The car cramp up? Okay, anyways. I spent the summer in Canada choosing to drive south for as long as I could. One day in late November, before the roads would become even more undrivable than they are, even though I hadn't. Okay. My car cramp up. My ease of running would never be anything but suspicious. In the winter month that I arrived in Forks, there was no snow when I drove slowly through the town, but the green trees and the blue tint roads that merged to slim rows of independent shops were a pleasant change from the starkness of the last town I had stayed in. Even the gray pavements and overhead wires made the center street feel different. Though different was not always good. That's true. Different is never good sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes different can be bad. Others can be good, but other than that, As I turned a corner into a small side street, I could see fog seeping in from over the jagged tree tops that surrounded the town. Already I was feeling at home, the dull weather something that could protect me when I was on my own, but was always a bad thing. My love for the same type of places that I would stay in, I always hated to leave. At the edge of the road there was a small bed breakfast, no larger than 3 beds on the road. Slung in front of dated purple patterned curtains hung a vacancy sign. Despite the size of the place I wasn't surprised. I wondered when the last time they had a guest. Who knows? By the door I shuffled through the pile of crisp orange leaves that seemed to have come from nowhere, and as I opened the stiff door, heat flooded out, brushing against my skin. The sound of trimming bells shattered the silence, and a small elderly woman came hobbling in, cloaked in a lilac nightgown. White hair wrapped in cotton curls, she stood in the doorway for a moment, wrinkled eyes staring curiously, her thin lips puckered, before she tottered forward again towards the desk at the back of the cramped reception room. I followed her forward, bag trailing behind me. I clenched tightly in my fingers. The old woman grinned as she ran her frail fingers twice over a narrow book, opening it with a careless clang. I peered down at the short list of names, of which soon my half-false one would be added. Good morning. I suppose you want room, yes? The woman said, nodding along to her question as if she was answering it. She didn't give me much time to answer that I did, and that it was in fact an hour into the afternoon too. But by the looks of it, time must have ran differently in her B&B. B&B. Huh. Don't know what B&B is, but okay. Dude, I want a freaking burrito right now. A chili bean burrito. Smothered. We don't really get visitors here often. You see, and when we do it, it's always family of town residents, and it's booked in advance. The many years I've worked here, I can't remember the last time I booked a person in like this. She babbled on to herself, busy as she searched for a pen. What's the name and how long for? Alid Masters, or I don't know if I said that right. Alid or something. I don't know. I'm sorry if I said it wrong to the. I don't know. I probably said it wrong. Okay. Alid Masters, I answered, cringing as she scrawled my name out after motioning with interest. And for as long as possible, I have no date. For no less, the woman's eyebrow rose, creasing her pale forehead even more. Can I ask you what you're doing in a small town like this? We never get long-term visitors. Kind of reminds me of Scooby-Doo, that one episode where those I don't know how many grown-ups, but they had like freaking monster costumes and they pretended to be monsters crawling all over the place. Kind of reminds me of that, Scooby-Doo. If you know, you know. If you don't, I'm sorry. Go watch Scooby-Doo. It's on Netflix, I think. Anyways, my slight accent was apparently easy to acknowledge. No matter how good my gift of hiding was, I could never suppress it. Often I thought it may be a physiological thing, a way of, I don't know if I said that right, I'm sorry, a way of clinging to my beloved homeland, even after 60 years of leaving it and never returning to England. I pulled on a sad smile. I used to know someone that lived in Forks. I'd rather not talk any more of it. Ooh, sounds sad. Well, since you'll be staying so long, you can pay per 2 weeks, she said, not giving an option to choose any different. She stated her price. She's doing it for the money, huh? She's doing it for the money. Given an option to choose any different, she stated her price. I held back a sigh as I reached hand into my bag. It had been a long time since I'd done this. Begrudgingly, I placed a thick envelope onto the space in front of her. Watching with narrowed eyes as she gripped it in her hand, she flicked through it with sharp fingers, nodding to herself before returning a few notes. Okay, this is obviously she's only doing it for money. Quite obvious, at least. Oh, I missed it. Anyways. Her grin failing slightly. I take it you'll be joining the high school if you're here for so long? Pretty much. I nodded. After Christmas break. What's up?
Every 2 hours.
Okay. Ugh, that woman, I swear, what was I? The woman nodded again, turning to pull a key from below the desk. She slid it across the wooden bench. Your key to room 2. I'm Miss Rochester. Breakfast is 7 in through that door there, she said, pointing towards the door that she appeared through only minutes before I'd forgotten about breakfast. Appeared only minutes before I'd forgotten about breakfast, but chose not to mention that I wouldn't be eating in the house. It was easy enough to deal with. I took the key, nodding in thanks as I headed towards the stairs. So the edge of the room, bag light in one hand, the wooden steps creaked as I slowly stepped up them, merging into a landing that branched into 4 doors marked 1 to 3, the last number missing. The key jammed in the door, taking a few seconds of pushing and twisting before I could push it open with my shoulder. Inside it, barely larger than a cupboard. Though the baby blue wallpaper wasn't peeling like I imagined it would. It was still stained with soot. At the edge, where burned-out candles still stood on the beside table on the far side, a window was covered by a thin lace curtain, ruffled against the side of oak wardrobe that was shoved against the wall too. In remaining space there was a single bed dressed in a plain white cover. Dumping my bag on the bed, I sat against the crinkled pillows, hearing the screech of the bed against my weight, moaning from the aches of disgust as I flattened out against the headboard. I caught a glimpse of my face in the mirror, adjusting, hanging in the few inches between the wall and window. The last time I'd seen myself was a few days ago, in a truck rest corner shop, when I'd been figuring out where to go. From there, though I barely changed, I didn't like to look at myself after years of being on Earth. You learn to be sickened by the value of vanity when the world grows older all around. My youthfulness was undeserved. Oh, okay. Wait, what happened? Damn, I gotta pay attention, dude. In the days since my stop, I'd grown impossibly paler, as if it reflects to the low sun that I hadn't seen since in Forks I missed a tan. The feeling of looking down and seeing sun-kissed skin the color of golden sand, though I've been lucky to keep some color. It was nothing compared to the tint of pink that masked the freckles on my nose. I suppose I should be thankful I could hide myself good enough to not look like a ghost. My eyes were dark chocolate brown. I hadn't fed in a while, and it was obvious. After a few moments of losing myself to the mirror, I shifted from the bed, dislodging myself from the string that wedged into my skin through the quilt. The mirror didn't fog under my touch, and I almost imagined frost to coat the edges icy under my own fingers. As I lifted the mirror from the wall, tucking it easily into the back of the wardrobe, still bare without my minimal clothes, it was rather depressing. For the rest of the night, I chose to stay in bed rather than go out and search the town. It had rained, and the sound of pattering had done enough to keep me occupied during the length of time that I couldn't physically sleep. It was one thing that I've been cursed with, that I'd never miss. After a few years, I realized how pointless and time-consuming it was to lay down and close your eyes for almost 8 hours a day. When I slid downstairs 10 minutes before the clock in the reception hit 7, the house was still as it had been half an hour past midnight. When I had crept around my room, moving from the bed to the window, it seemed that Miss Rochester was appalling at timings, as by the time a plate of food had been delivered by her husband, who I had quickly realized would never speak, it had been an hour since I sat. Thankfully, they didn't linger either, and I didn't have to suffer through the illusion of eating human food. Instead, dumped it in a bin on my way out. I'd stopped feeling guilty about such things years ago. Ooh. I guess that would be the same for me, I guess. But I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. I expected the day would feel even colder to any normal person as I stepped out onto the pavement, wordlessly glancing behind to see Mrs. Rochester watching from the windows. I stared back. Gazing like that always made me wary, and as I walked on through the edge of town, I had the sudden urge to cry. I spent the rest of the walk distracted, wishing that I even had the ability to do so in the first place. Ads. Where's the mute button at? Where's the mute? I don't want to listen to this song. Ooh, interesting. Give me a minute. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Oof. Anyways, I began to regret forcing my presence into Forks. By the second week, it was as if I had forgotten that closed-mindedness of humans during my secluded stay in Canada, and although I had missed their company, no matter of the fact if I talked to them or not, I did not miss their gossip each place I went. I was followed by a shadow of whispers nipping at the back of my neck, but to me it was as if they were shouting unbothered about the word that drifted into my ears. I couldn't ignore them. The sun was at its highest at noon and had shortly appeared by 4 in the afternoon, leaving the rest of the evenings bustling with more people than seemed possible for a town that was home to no more than 3,000 people. None of them seemed to mind the dampness that day often brought either a telltale sign that most days were tediously the same. And with that in mind, I tried to convince myself that this was a good place to stay as any other could possibly be. On one boring day, of which I spent sitting against the boot of my car, book curled in hand, I sat by the edge of the woods, a place that quickly became my favorite place in the whole of Forks. It wasn't hard considering the fact that the town had a denser population of trees than people. I heard the hikers on the second before I saw them, many yards away from my car, weaving slowly in and out from behind the mossy trunks. 2 girls my human age, by the looks of it, no older than 17. Ooh. I kept my eye on them as they drew closer to the car, details becoming clear every step they took, but I knew they wouldn't pay any mind to me as the 2 talked of nothing other than boys and clothes. I heard them for the last 10 minutes. The one closest was a short girl, hair a dark brown and always pointed and peaked. It was strange how much humans' appearance could hint at personality. And I wondered if it was the same for vampires. She looked stuck up, her chin halfway in the air as she barely listened to her friend that trailed slower behind. The second girl had light brown curly hair that gave her at least a couple extra inches to her tall height, tiny leaves already dusted over it. I waited breathlessly for the 2 to leave before getting back to the book at hand. They slowed as they neared me, obviously taking a few peeks at the car. It seemed that I was nothing of interest as the view of a pink-yellow puffer coat disappeared rather quickly. The smell of young blood, however, lingering from another 10 minutes before making my arms ache with the force of shivers it caused. I realized how hungry I was. I hadn't eaten in 10 days, more than I'd ever let myself go with, since I'd realized how dangerous it could be. I needed to feed more often than others like me. New places always made me repel my natural hunger, though, but it was caught up, and I wondered how dark my eyes had gotten. Oh. I tried to concentrate on the book in my hand, one of 3 copies that I lugged around for at least 100 years. I wasn't sentimental until it came to these books. They were fine print embossed, with detail on leather covers, and were given to me by a friend that I left long ago. Somehow the pages were still intact, though still brittle and threatening to disintegrate, even under my cold touch. Oh. The words blurred together as if my brain was malfunctioning, the rest of my body drawing me to feed. But as I flipped the delicate page, a slip of paper fell out, settling my distraction. If only for a single moment more, turning it over gently, I studied the yellow page, smoothing the crinkles between my cold fingers. I was losing my breath there. Dark charcoal smudged over years.
Any dishes in here?
No, but okay.
Yeah, take anything out of the trash.
Yeah. Ignore her. Hey, you better not. Charcoal has smudged over the years, and yet the shape still held in place flowing hair. A cold, harsh stare and a contrite smile. It was unfinished, yet I could tell there's never be such a truthful version of myself on paper. Even with the single lines unshaded in places, I was more myself than I ever was, and though I have never seen the resemblance, it was drawing of how Thomas had always seen me, but that was before. I don't know why I kept it, seeing the rough lines and bursts of liveliness that came from a few lines of pencil made me envious, even if it was just a sketch. The unrecognizable person on paper seemed to have more heart than I did. Even the scribble of signature scrawled tightly into the corner square made me both scowl and want to cry simultaneously. Slipping the paper into the back, I snapped the book shut, tucking it beneath the blanket I sat on. I jumped out, eager to hear the crunching of leaves and sticking, but my feet were silent as always. Ooh, 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 ooh.
You've been accused of leaking a classified...
I don't give a shit about that. I don't like that. Me who's playing a game while doing this at the same time. God, I can't believe I'm doing this. Oh, my elbow hurts, man. For that, I have to check something. I'm checking something, that's what I'm doing. What's this? Who messes me? Good. How about you? Huh. I don't know why I have that on there for. Okay, what do I have? Oscar, how's your day going? So far, it's really boring. No, I don't want no ad. Who the fuck wants ads? Not me. I know that for sure. I wouldn't want any ads. Notifications I gotta get rid of before they pile up again. Yeah, before they pile up again, because I don't want to deal with the pile-ups all the single time. Upcoming, what the fuck? Oh! Live? Oh. Dude, I haven't seen this. Oh my god, it's been so long. Oh, jeez. Oh my god, watching this takes me back when I was into like that gotcha stuff. Oh, it takes me back really well. It's weird, isn't it? Oh shit, I don't want a screenshot. T. Shouldn't I play Super Sus back? Don't know, should I? Hee. It is what it is. I'm gonna end the stream because I gotta do some pseudo stuff before the old lady comes in and bugs me again. I'll see y'all later. Till next time.